During Georgia's recount, Gwinnett County's election office seemed to foster a transparent environment with poll watchers and journalists allowed to roam around as they pleased. But one poll monitor tells us there are many subtle details that could have compromised the security of the count. One example, the ballot boxes were supposed to be secured with green zip ties.
I saw over and over and over just poll workers or volunteers that were working take scissors, cut them, and I would stand right over them.
And she says officials told her there was no spreadsheet or backlog to keep track of the totals from each ballot box. Only Post-it notes inside each box that had the totals written on them. Another example Savage gave is the data entry computers, which had the login information written on Post-it notes for anyone to access. And uncertainty grew on the Wednesday of the county's deadline for the recounts. Savage says it started around 2 p.m. when the counting seemed to be over. Then at around 5 p.m., 2 unknown people came in.
The headquarters superintendent, she told me who they were, that they were with Arlo, which is the data entry system. And then they disappeared.
She says they returned later, and at around 8 o'clock, all of the lights went off, and people doing data entry had to stop. They were off for about an hour, and people kept telling her it happens all the time.
And my response was, well, I've been here for 5 days from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and this hasn't happened. Well, at 11:55, one of the poll officials comes in. Everyone who had been working there starts applauding, and she starts doing her head back and forth like no. She goes and grabs a batch of ballots because they had lost an entire precinct.
Then the officials sent everyone home, and they were supposed to return at 7 a.m. the following morning. But then they were told not to come back the next day. Gwinnett County officials reported that they didn't find any uncounted ballots, but that they had a nearly 2,000 count difference between the recount number and the certified results. From Gwinnett alone, Trump had an increase of 948 votes, and Biden had 663 more. But county officials were told not to include those additional counts in the state's certified results. According to this letter sent to county election officials on November 16th, our office has concluded the original results from the Dominion voting system on and after Election Day should be the results that your county certifies. Though the risk limiting audit, or RLA, might show slight changes in totals, those changes are not the certified results.
I made phone calls to the boards of elections.
Right. Okay. And did your numbers, were they exactly the same?
No.
Which ones will be counted as the official numbers?
The election night numbers.
Why is that?
You'll have to ask the state why that is, ma'am. I don't know.
So how do we even believe the results when they're not being precise with the results?
With a vote margin of just around 12,000 between Trump and Biden, the question remains, if multiple counties found an increased number of votes during their audits, like Gwinnett County, could those numbers add up to change the overall state's results? Reporting in Georgia, Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
We speak with an insider who said the state's previous recount was hard to watch. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
I said, wow, this is actually going on right in front of our eyes. And I said, wow.
Rolls said he didn't trust the result of the previous hand recount due to his personal experience. Roll and his wife worked at the Georgia World Congress Center on November 14th and 15th, counting ballots for Fulton County. He said he was told the recount would take 5 days, but it wrapped up in less than 2 days.
I know that Fulton County had over 500,000 votes to count, and it was so brief that it's very hard for me to try to fathom that many votes were counted.
He added counters weren't given equal amounts of ballots.
Certain people were getting more ballots than other people, and then those particular people who were getting these large stacks weren't really counting the ballots.
Roll explained after sorting the ballots, counters were meant to read out the number of ballots in a stack and have another person repeat the same procedure. But he noticed a large amount of counters were not following the rules.
You're not supposed to take a stack of ballots and reshuffle them from one stack to another on your own. and I didn't even see them placing them in the designated locations for the candidates. So it's like they're not even placing them in the location where the candidates would be placed if you were actually counting the ballots.
He says he noticed a lot of the staff weren't working in teams of 2 as required.
And then they were working on their own. That person had a stack, and the other person had a stack when they were working on them individually.
His wife Sonia Roll, who also worked as a ballot counter during the audit, noticed batches of ballots that were perfectly bubbled in, and they were overwhelmingly for Biden.
You can't have a perfectly ballot, no mark, absolutely no mark on the outside on a ballot sheet, so many ballots. It's just, those are the things that was very, suspicious to us.
She didn't have an estimate of the number of such ballots, and Georgia's Secretary of State's office didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Gordon Roll added that he thinks it's a sad situation that America has come to a point of having elections that so many lack faith in, and he hopes measures can be taken to ensure all Americans have a fair say on who will become the next president of the United States. Reporting by Juliet Song, NTD News.
In a resurfaced video, Dominion Voting Systems Director demonstrates how operators can manually enter votes into their machines and explains this is a feature of Dominion's software. Attorney Sidney Powell recently mentioned this feature when discussing allegations of voter fraud against Dominion.
In a video reportedly from 2017, Dominion Director Eric Coomer demonstrates how Dominion's voting machines and software works. One feature, he explains, is the ability to manually enter votes, a feature Dominion calls adjudication.
And what we're saying is we're not sure what the voter intent is, but we're going to allow the adjudicators to make that call based on any kind of state statutes. So right on the screen, I can go ahead and say, you know what, the voter meant to mark. They wanted those votes to count for those candidates.
Coomer says this feature is meant to be used when a voter doesn't mark the ballot correctly, and the machine cannot read which candidate was selected. If this happens, an operator can adjudicate the ballot, which means they manually select what candidate they think the voter meant to choose. Despite Dominion's reasoning for the feature, some people are raising concerns about how an operator could abuse it. In a recent press conference, Attorney Sidney Powell brought up this feature when discussing allegations of election fraud against Dominion.
The software manual itself, you can download it from the internet, and I would encourage you all to read it because it specifically advertises some of these things as features of the system. Why it was ever allowed into this country is beyond my comprehension, and why nobody has dealt with it is absolutely appalling.
The Dominion brochure advertises that the adjudication feature allows for efficient processing of ballots that require resolution of voter intent during the post-voting stage of an election. It also states that ballot changes always preserve the voter's original intent. Anyone reviewing a ballot will be able to see how the voter marked their ballot, how the scanner interpreted the intent, and how the ballot was adjudicated. After concerns about this feature being misused arose, Dominion released a statement on their website saying, Dominion employees do not have access to this adjudication system, nor do they operate it, and that access to any adjudication system resides with the election authority using it.